Hello Team FD, welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we look at the highs and the lows from the weekend just past in the world of football. Joining me on today's show is Joseph Tomlinson. How was your weekend, sir?
Yes, not too bad. Not too bad at all, actually. Bit of a shame that the Lions couldn't bring it home against South Africa, but what a test series that was. And not the best in the cricket. So it's a bit up and down sporting-wise, but I enjoyed myself other than that. How about you?
I went to Brighton and, no word of a lie, had 3 separate incidences on a night out where people just screamed Graham Potter at me. So I assume that they share my love for the bearded maestro. Anyway, let's move on. Today's episode of Winners and Losers is sponsored by our friends over at FanTeam, who are once again kicking the Premier League season off with their £1 million fantasy football competition, where coming in first is worth a mighty 200k. If you want a slice of that pie, join the league using FD's unique code on screen now or in the description below. Now, before we start this week's episode, where we are going to discuss some of the rumblings of silly season, we're going to talk some bargain players in FanTeam's format, Joseph. And I've picked out some examples. I want you to tell me who you'd go for. And then, like I said, we'll roll on. So I've gone Ivan Toney at 6 million. Even his Russian brother. We've got Ben White at 4.5 or Billy Gilmore at 4.5, as well as Kufau at a mighty £5 million. Who tickles your pickle out of the aforementioned names?
I think Ben White at 4.5 is certainly better value than the £50 million Arsenal spent on him, but I do think he's going to have a really, really good season. Like I said on Sunday Vibes, I'm actually predicting Arsenal to be a little bit higher up the table than a lot of other people. I think they might be in around that battle for 5th place given their form at the back end of last season, how structurally sound that defence was under Mikel Arteta, despite the fact they had problems at the top end of the pitch. I think Ben White is a good addition and he is going to keep clean sheets, so 4.5 mil I think could be a bit of a snip.
Yeah, well, there were some of the names that I picked out, but if you don't trust my pedigree, and you're completely right not to, because I lose all interest normally in fantasy football after 4 weeks, I've actually gone onto Twitter and found Josh Woolridge's suggestion, who actually won FanTeam last season. He's gone for Sufal, Dunk, Reguilon, Tierney and Firpo as his top 5 value transfers. Yeah, no, get around it, Josh. Jesus Christ. Anyway, let us know in the comments if you find any other candidates on the website. And we'll be sure to get back to you in the first hour when this goes live. Of course, if you are playing, T's and C's apply. You have to be 18 plus and all of that jazz. Right, let's roll into the talking point, Joseph, which is Big Rom's medical coming in. Now, as per Gianluca Di Marzio, Lukaku will be undergoing a medical today rather than Sunday as previously suggested, and he's set to be announced actually in the next 48 hours, it would appear, as they are keen to get everything nipped in the bud before their season opener against Crystal Palace. Now, we did discuss the big Belgian at length on Sunday Vibes, so if you've got a thirst for that, go and check out yesterday's episode. But Joe, have you had any more thoughts about how Tuchel is going to line up now he has that plethora of disgusting forward talent?
Yeah, well, fingers crossed this doesn't get announced before the video comes out, because it does now feel like a real possibility, doesn't it? If it does, then take this all with a pinch of salt. But yeah, I firmly believe this is the transfer of the summer. I think he's going to score 20 plus in the Prem, probably 30 plus in all competitions. And unless City sign Kane, I think he will win them the league title, Romelu Lukaku. I see him playing as the out-and-out 9. Thomas Tuchel, really interested in his press conference on the weekend, talking about a desire to replace a player like Olivier Giroud in his side, that he doesn't have a player who can play with his back to goal and hold the ball up from long distribution, which is obviously something Romelu Lukaku specialises in and has massively improved on at Inter Milan. His ability to take the ball with his back to goal, turn, play, dribble at defenders is vastly improved over the last couple of seasons, and it's something that's going to really add a different dimension to this Chelsea attack. But yeah, I see him as the number 9, potentially playing alongside Timo Werner, like we saw Werner at Leipzig playing alongside Poulsen, which really saw the best of the German, didn't it? So I think he'll stick with the sort of 3-4-3 come 3-5-2 situation at Chelsea. You'll see Romelu joined by either Timo Werner or Kai Havertz, and what an exciting front two that is. Mason Mount floating in around there as well. It doesn't get much better. I mean, God knows what this means for the likes of Ziyech, Pulisic and Callum Hudson-Odoi, who can't really get minutes. I'm sure it's the end of Tammy Abraham's time at Chelsea as well, if they can find a buyer. But overall, This move is just sensational. I was a big critic of Lukaku at United, but I think he's fixed a lot of the things that were problematic when he was at Old Trafford. So this is a scary move if you're a rival, but my God, is he going to score a lot of goals at Chelsea this season?
Do you guys at home agree with Tomlinson? Will this be the transfer of the season? Stick yours in the comments below. And like I said, we will get back to you. And while you're at it, drop this video a like because it really does help with the algorithm. And if you're not subscribed to Team FD, get doing so and turn notifications on. Right, let's move into winners then swiftly. And I've got Arsenal here for getting paid for Joe Willock. Now, multiple media outlets are reporting that this morning a fee of £20 million has been agreed between Newcastle and Arsenal for the young Englishman's signature, but personal terms still need to be finalised. And I'm sure after being left out of some pre-season squads, Joe Willock will be keen to sign on the dotted line as soon as possible so he can prepare in earnest for the season. Now, the 21-year-old has, of course, been Newcastle's #1 target, well documented that throughout the transfer window, and he could well become Steve Bruce's first signing. Not really strengthened, have they? And Newcastle fans starting to get anxious, and understandably so. And he would be a very good addition for them, and understandable how keen they are to get him across the line, given that he scored 8 goals in just 14 appearances for the Toon last campaign. This included 7 goals in his last 7 Premier League appearances. However, Joseph, and we've said it on other shows before, can't help but feel like Newcastle are in part overpaying for that purple patch of form. Now, his expected goals was closer to 5, and while that's still mightily impressive in just 11 Premier League starts, this is a player who only made 12 Premier League starts in 4 seasons for Newcastle prior to this move. So not a whole host of minutes under his belt. Does turn 22 this August as well. So it's kind of leaving that territory where we can describe him as a young, prodigious talent. And I think Arsenal thought they were going to get this sort of money for maybe a Hector Bellerin, maybe a Granit Xhaka. But it's Joe Willock they're going to get £25 million for. And it's a deal they have to make, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic fee for Joe Willock. And I know I've seen some Arsenal fans a little bit reticent to see the back of another academy talent, but 25 million you just can't turn down for Joe Willock. If you can put that 25 million towards James Maddison, it's really, really good money in my opinion. And I think, like you said, it is a slight overpayment by Newcastle, but they needed it. Steve Bruce needed it. Newcastle fans were desperate to see Willock return to this side, and he doesn't just add goals, he adds physicality, he adds legs to what is a bit of an ageing midfield. Let's have it right. I mean, defensively, he's also a contributor, isn't he? 2.4 tackles per 90 last season. And what I think he adds to Steve Bruce is the ability to be slightly more tactically versatile, whether Steve Bruce wants to go back to that 5-3-2, whether he wants to use Willock as a sort of supercharged 8 who can get into the box late like we saw so many of his goals come from. But it also adds pace to the side, doesn't it? Willock, Almiron, Sam Maximan, all going to be able to play on the break. And I think that is what's vital to this Newcastle team, because when you see Jeff Hendrick in there, John Joe Shelvey in there, Longstaff in there, you see a real lack of pace and dynamism around the pitch, because I think they are still going to stick with John Joe Shelvey in that midfield. Probably still going to see Jeff Hendrick get minutes. It seems like Longstaff, I wonder whether those Everton links will continue to kick up a fuss. Certainly seems like Matty Longstaff's going to go out on loan. But finally, Newcastle fans have a transfer to be excited about, because Willock was sensational there towards the back end of the last season. Whether or not he'll be able to hit those heights again, I'm a little bit unconvinced about. Certainly overperforming expected goals by a fair old amount. But this fee works for Arsenal. The player gets a move to where he was very successful. Newcastle, yes, it's a slight overpayment, but get their #1 target. For me, this is a pretty positive move all round, Hamster.
Yeah, I think they have to stick to that 5-3-2, and you just mentioned it there, in order to get the best out of him. One of the most interesting stats that I sort of uncovered while I was doing a bit of prep for this show was that Willock was actually only averaging 16 passes per 90, and the only player who made fewer passes per game was Callum Wilson, which is a real indication of the sort of player he is. Like, if they're going to rely on him to stitch together midfield and attack, that's not his strengths. Like you've said, he is well capable of arriving late in the box. Seems to have a penchant, doesn't he, for getting into dangerous positions on the counter, maintaining pace with the likes of Almiron and Alan Saint-Maximin, which is no mean feat. So yes, as long as they use him correctly and don't expect him to become this well-rounded midfield maestro, that's fine. I mean, they probably do need cover at 6, because if anything happens to John Joe Shelvey, I don't really see any other good Premier League passers in that midfield. So I would still be quite alarmed about the lack of depth in deep-lying positions. But yeah, a good deal all round. Maybe a £5 to £10 million overpay. But Newcastle haven't left themselves with much time to not be taken advantage of, have they? Like you said. Right, this next section, fairly weighty, so get ready, Tomlinson, is of course Messi departing Barcelona. And we've got them down as our losers because quite clearly, Joe, this isn't how Lionel Messi wanted to exit the club. And it felt like he was under the impression that he wasn't going to depart on these terms.
Well, he clearly wasn't going to depart on these terms. He'd agreed a 5-year contract stay at Barcelona. All that was left was putting pen to paper when he arrived in Barcelona on Thursday. That was the plan, only to be told by Laporta that we physically can't do it, Leo. You're going to have to leave the club. And we saw really, to be honest with you, sad scenes yesterday, didn't we? Lionel Messi crying in front of a Barcelona badge. That is something I wanted to see when he retired, not something I wanted to see just before he leaves the club and moves to PSG. Now, if you guys haven't already watched my video over on We Need to Talk, go and watch that if you want a little bit more in-depth information on exactly why he's having to leave the club. But it all comes down to Barca's terrible financial situation that was brought on by a terrible, terrible board led by Bartomeu that saw 1.3 billion euros of debt build up. La Liga absolutely hammering them because they're so far over the wage cap. There's so many issues financially at Barcelona, but effectively it comes down to the fact that Messi physically could not sign a new deal. He was willing to take a 50% pay cut of his previous wage to sign a new contract at Barcelona. And some people at home have said, well, if he really loved the club that much, he'd play on for free. He physically can't. In Spain, there are laws that state you cannot take anything less than 50% of your previous contract. Worker law. So that was the maximum he was allowed to take, and it's not even enough. That's how bad the financial situation is. The CVC deal that's come into play, where La Liga have effectively sold off 10% of all commercial income for the next 50 years, isn't even enough. When you break it down, it's still not enough revenue to get Barcelona close to the wage cap. So it's a real shame all round, but overall, it's a financial mess at Barcelona. If you want more information, like I said, go and watch We Need to Talk. But Hamster, this is just sad, isn't it?
Really sad, mate. Like you said, this is not the exit that the greatest player of all time deserved. Someone that is given 21 years worth of service to the club, 672 career goals, 10 La Liga titles, 6 Ballon d'Ors, 6 European Golden Boots, amongst a litany of other personal and collective accolades. And yeah, he's gone without saying goodbye to the fans. That feels like a crime against football. And he was struggling to speak throughout the press conference, wasn't he? He said he was pretty candid. He wanted to leave last year, but not this year. And that's why he's so upset. Because, of course, he felt like with Laporta returning to the club that things were falling back in place for him to succeed once more at the club. He wanted to leave Barcelona, where they were, one of the greatest teams in the world, not going through a stage of transition, and that's not happened now. With Laporta saying on Friday that even with Messi's salary cut, Barcelona's wages would still be at 110% of the club's revenue, and La Liga rules stipulate that a club must be operating at around a ratio of 70%. So even with Messi off the books, still struggling to, like I said, register those new players. It's now thought that their inclusion is in doubt for the season opener against Real Sociedad, which It's just hounding, isn't it? I can really see them struggling to finish in the top 2 this season, and it's just not the Barcelona we're used to. Hopefully, this is the start of the road to recovery, but yeah, just not great for the Culés at all, is it? And yeah, not really an awful lot more to add on the Barcelona front that hasn't been heavily reported over the last weekend. So maybe let's take a forward look, Joe, at that potential transfer to PSG, because it has been said that he could well be announced in the next 24 hours, which it just feels so alien now.
Yeah,
the concept of him playing in Ligue 1.
This is going to be a horrifying sight, isn't it? They truly are the Harlem Globetrotters of football right now, PSG, bringing Messi into the side. But yeah, like you said, some people report it could be announced as early as today. I think it's maybe more likely it'll be tomorrow or the day after. But yeah, it's understood, according to The Athletic, that he has agreed a €25 million net salary and €25 million signing on bonus as well. It's a 2-year contract with the option of a third, and apparently it all came down to a phone call between Messi and Pochettino, where Pochettino convinced him to join the club, and PSG have apparently somehow financially made it work. They believe that Messi coming into the club, the commercial viability that it is going to bring to not only PSG but Ligue 1 as well, will offset the majority of that fee. Now, there are a lot of question marks about how that has been allowed to happen, given financial fair play. But whatever, right now, PSG believe they've made that happen. He's not going to be the top earner at the club. That will remain Neymar as well. And Mbappe is still there. He hasn't yet agreed the new contract, but it has to be said, I know that he's likely to join Madrid, and it's probably still going to happen. If Messi's at the club, Neymar's at the club, you can't get much more in the way of convincing you to stay than the signing of Lionel Messi, in my opinion. It's an extremely exciting move if you're Paris Saint-Germain, extremely exciting move if you're a PSG ultra. What I will say is this is huge pressure now, huge pressure on PSG to win the Champions League. Anything but the Champions League feels like a failure at this stage. For Pochettino, anything but a treble feels like a failure at this stage, which is just hilarious to say, but that squad is so stacked now. Probably means that the Paul Pogba transfer isn't going to happen this summer. I'm sure if he can't agree a new contract, they'll be in for him next summer as a free transfer. But good God, Messi has joined PSG. How on earth has this happened, Hamster?
Well, like you said there, I am scratching my head as to how they are making this work. I know that they have had financiers saying that this is going to add 10% to the PSG brand, globally speaking. But how much more growth potential is there when you already have Mbappe and Neymar? I am very, very dubious as to the mechanics behind this. But it is reported they are now willing to sell 10 first-team players. But are they going to find 10 suitors for these players in that like mid-level bracket of 20 to 30 million pounds, which they will want to see for the likes of, you know, Thilo Kehrer, maybe not for Ander Herrera. They might be selling Rafinha on at this point, Idrissa Gueye. Some of the other names escape me, Paredes,
Sarabia.
Yeah, Pablo Sarabia, probably the most valuable of the bunch. Again, I'm just not sure. Just not sure. But it looks like it's going to happen. Messi has gone to one of the, you know, he's moving from one of the aristocrats of football to a state-owned club. Not necessarily where I wanted to see him play out his final years. You know, maybe Barcelona for another couple of years, go to Newell's Old Boys, or set up your MLS franchise and then walk off into the sunset. But yeah, PSG it is. And if they don't win the Champions League, like you said, that would be absolutely hilarious.
I know.
I don't really know what more to add. What do you guys think about the whole Messi transfer saga at home? Let me know in the comments below. That is the end of winners and losers for another week. And like I said at the start of the show, if you want to join the £1 million Premier League transfer competition, Premier League season-long competition from Fanteam, use the link on screen now or in the description below. Joe, we got anything to plug from EFD?
Yeah, may as well go and watch the Messi video I did on Friday, like I said during that video, talking about the reasons behind his departure from Barcelona. I'll go into a little bit more depth on the finances on that one.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out me versus the supercomputer on one-on-one yesterday, then please go and do so. Leave some comments there. I'll be diving in later on today. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next week on Transfer Winners and Losers, where, Messi could potentially be a PSG player. Sad time.